I love the movies. From the time I was very young, and especially over the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, films have followed me throughout every stage of my life and continue to be one of my greatest passions. To me, they're a culmination of all art forms: poetry, sound, music, visuals, and more, all band together in tandem to create one singular piece of art. Today, I want to focus on one specific aspect of the movies: the music. Specifically, I want to focus on one of the most influential artists in the scoring world today and of our generation, who continues to revolutionize the sphere in many different ways. Born and raised in Linköping, Sweden, Ludwig Goransson is one of the most influential artists of the past decade. He got into music because of his father, who is also a musician, but mainly focused on heavy metal and other genres of that sort when he was young. But later into his teens, he very quickly got into jazz and studied that for a while. Soon after, he studied at and graduated from the Royal College of Music in Stockholm. He finally got into the film scoring world when he got into the film scoring program at the University of South Carolina. While he was there, he met young filmmaker Ryan Coogler, and the two quickly became friends and would eventually become future partners on several projects. However, for now, Goransson would get into the world of TV scoring, focusing on comedy series like New Girl and Community. While he was scoring for TV, he collaborated with many different popular artists, especially Adele, Chance the Rapper, and Childish Gambino, who he met while on the set of Community. He and Childish Gambino would co-produce and co-write several different albums. One of the tracks won a Grammy in 2019, This Is America.
This is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now.
After Community ended in 2015, Goransson was looking for work, and Ryan Coogler invited him to be the composer for his new Rocky film, Creed. Because of this partnership, when Coogler was invited to direct Marvel's new film Black Panther 3 years later, he invited Goransson to score the film for him. This would be Goransson's most ambitious project to date. 4 months prior to shooting the movie, Goransson picked up a camera and a field recorder and traveled to Africa to be enveloped in the sound and culture. He discussed with citizens, historians, and even sampled audio files from the Library of African Music in South Africa. For the score itself, Goransson primarily focused on the talking drum, which is a percussion instrument that can form syllables by changing its pitch. Goransson asked one of the top players of the talking drum what T'Challa's name would sound like if it was played on the instrument. That rhythmic motif is then used throughout the entire score to symbolize T'Challa. After his major success that won him a Grammy and an Oscar, Goransson was then invited deeper into the Disney sphere. He scored the massive Star Wars show that premiered with the launch of Disney+, The Mandalorian. It featured a Western theme that also perfectly captured the fantastical nature of Star Wars. Goransson's stellar resume at this point captured the attention of potentially the most successful director of the last 20 years, Christopher Nolan. His 2020 movie Tenet was probably the most intimidating project Nolan had taken on at this point in his career. Furthermore, his usual partner Hans Zimmer was busy scoring his lifelong dream of a project, Dune. So, Nolan turned to Goransson and gave him the opportunity of a lifetime. The Tenet score is very controversial because its experimental nature makes it a bit inaccessible to some viewers and makes the dialogue a bit hard to hear. However, Goransson holds nothing back in his pursuit of greatness. For the main motif of the protagonist, the nameless spy, Goransson attempts to capture the theme of time. He composes the score backwards, has his orchestra play it, and then reverses the audio file to give that effect of going back in time. He furthers this in the score of the final fight, where two different teams are going opposite directions through time. To capture this, he overlays the backwards theme on top of the forwards theme. It's safe to say he earned his partnership with Christopher Nolan. However, he did not take this for granted. The Oppenheimer score is potentially one of the most revolutionary scores in this generation. Goransson uses virtuosic recording techniques to express motifs that are deeply tied to the character in this movie. I think the most iconic track of the score, Can You Hear the Music, is the greatest example of this. Without reading the script, Goransson was told that the violin should be the instrument to represent Oppenheimer himself. The heavy weight of loneliness felt by Oppenheimer couldn't have been expressed as successfully with any other instrument. Nolan had done this type of thing with many films in the past, especially Interstellar, where he told Hans Zimmer that the pipe organ should be the focus of the entire score. Even though it was just one instrument, Goransson wasn't going to use it half-heartedly. For this track, he focused on a 6-note motif that moved up and down, sort of like a scale, and every time the scale repeated, the tempo increased exactly 20 BPM. This was to represent the growth in knowledge, discovery, and mastery in Oppenheimer's character. At face value, this doesn't seem too difficult, until you try to record it with a live orchestra. In order to achieve the live effect that he wanted, he overlaid the new tempo's click track a bar before the new tempo actually set in. This was obviously incredibly difficult to do for the performers, but the track would not have the same authentic feeling that it does have without it. Today, Goransson lives with his violinist wife, Serena McKinney. By the time this video is out, he will have released his latest movie, Sinners, again with Coogler. And he has another Nolan project in the works called The Odyssey. I really don't think there's another comparable composer with the same level of bravery and ingenuity as Ludwig Goransson in our generation. I cannot wait to see what he comes up with next.